All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We have a good crew here. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Navigating Entrepreneurship webinar series hosted by Syracuse University's Daniello Institute for Veterans and Military Families. This free monthly event highlights the SBA's Community Navigator Pilot Program, or CNPP, and the programs and resources entrepreneurs need to recover, grow, or start a business. Our Community Navigator Network consists of 15 partner organizations who all provide an assortment of training and counseling services free to veterans and military-connected people who are entrepreneurs or small business owners. If you'd like to learn more, please check out the link we will leave in our chat box. And also, if there's a topic you'd like to learn more about in a future webinar training session, please feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'll also have my email in the chat box. As a reminder, this webinar will be recorded. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. A link to the recording will be posted to the IVMF CNPP webpage and distributed to all registered participants. We encourage you to use the meeting chat box to ask questions and engage with other participants during the discussion portion of the webinar. So for our agenda today, you'll be hearing from Rita Hicks, a practicing attorney with over 17 years of experience. She's also a founding member of the Military Spouse JD Network and the proud spouse of a retired Army Special Forces soldier. Joining Rita, we also have Lauren Hope, the Executive Director of Second Service Foundation, a serial entrepreneur, and an active duty military spouse. Rita will be sharing information on moving your business if you are relocating, including legal and business issues you may need to consider, and information about resources to explore when you've settled. One-on-one appointments can be scheduled with Rita following the presentation to discuss questions and strategies specific to your needs. Please use Rita's Calendly link, which we will also include in the chat, to set up a time with her. Also note that discussion during any meeting with Rita is for informational and educational purposes only. You will not be entering a formal client-attorney relationship with Rita, and she cannot give participants legal advice. And now I will turn it over to Rita and Lauren to kick off the webinar.
Hey everyone, I'm so glad to be with you all today and see so many smiling faces. I'm particularly glad to be teaching this session with my friend Lauren. I hope that it's really actionable and helpful for you. The way I have structured the session, and I'll put the slides up in a second, we'll walk over a more detailed roadmap, is that we're going to cover sort of the substantive content I put together for you at the top. I'm going to turn things over to my friend Lauren to share information about her journey, but we're going to try to have a big chunk of this hour dedicated to your questions and answers, because we want to make sure that the information is as applicable as possible to you. So be thinking about your questions. And if you have a question that comes to mind, just pop it in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it. And when it's time for Q&A, that will be a helpful resource for Lauren. So with that, just give me 1 second to share my screen and we'll get going. 1 second. Well, no, the jokes about attorneys and technology are not actually jokes. So just bear with me. Okay. All right. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen?
You're good.
Great. So today our session is about relocating your business. And as you already heard Amanda say to you, it's going to be high level, hopefully also very actionable for you, but there's not a way that we can cover all of the things that we think you need in one session. Hopefully this will serve as a really good starting point for you and provide you a framework to think about what it looks like to try and move your business. So here's a quick roadmap for you. We're going to do briefly intros here in just a second, briefly, because you'll hear about me as we talk through my slides, and then Lauren will have the opportunity to share more about her story later. Then we're going to move right into the quick tips that I've put together for you for relocating your business. We'll talk about Lauren's journey, and then we'll open things up to Q&A. I need to provide a few quick disclaimers at the top. Some of you in the participant list are attorneys that I know from MSJDN. Hi, guys. Many of you are not, and I think it's really important at the top that we level set. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. So today, what we're talking about is just general principles. And if you have specific questions that you have, or issues that you're dealing with your specific business, it's always good to seek counsel, and particularly counsel where you are located, so that they can help answer your questions in particular. Okay, so Amanda already provided some brief biographical information about both of us, so I won't spend a ton of time on that. I will say, in addition to about 17 years of legal practice, I myself have been an entrepreneur for about the last 4 years. I have a little technology startup that I am working through, and I also do organizational development consulting. You'll probably hear some of that come up in this session. So often when I work with small businesses and nonprofits, I have one foot in legal and one foot in operations and governance. And I really enjoy working through those kinds of challenges to help businesses get started and grow. And I am 100% doggedly Army. So go Army. Lauren, you want to say a few quick words? Exactly.
Right. So I will get to share my journey with you all here in a little bit, but if I can ask a question of you that are attending, have you moved a business before? I'd love to know what experience we have in the room. So yes or no. And if you have moved a business, how many times have you moved businesses? That's what I'd like to know. I'll share my story soon.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. So here's a theme that you're going to hear from me throughout this session is take notes, lots of notes. Not because I'm brilliant, although hopefully what you hear from me today is helpful, but because so often when we're starting a business and when we're running a business, we're so busy focusing on the day-to-day that we don't take the time to document along the way. But creating a playbook for your business is actually as simple as opening a Google Doc and starting to take copious notes about the things that you do, how you do them, the things you'd like to do, what it might take for those things to work for you. And so I'm going to challenge you to start that practice today if you haven't already, because I think what we're going to work through together today is a bit of a checklist that can help. And it might also get you thinking about documenting the way that you do your business. So take notes and then use those notes to help start documenting your business for you. All right. When I started thinking about this session, what I tried to think through is what's a really sort of helpful framework for helping you wrap your mind around what it might look like to move a business. Because you all know, you've PCS'd, many of you, multiple times. Organization is key to maintaining your sanity. And when it comes to moving a business, it's exactly the same thing. So what I came up with you today is basically 6 big questions that we're going to walk through that will hopefully help provide you that framework for getting organized about, can I move my business? And if I can, what does it look like to do so successfully? So the first question is, what would it take logistically? It's not a very legal question, but it really is the question that you have to start with. The second one is, how do I get registered? Who do I pay and how do I need to pay them? That's the third question. What kind of licenses do I need? It's the fourth question. Do I need bridge resources? And where are my starter networks? So we're going to take each of these questions in turn, and we're going to start with, what would it take logistically? To me, this was a really important place to start because some businesses are easier to move than others. And sometimes whether or not you can move your business, it depends on key factors about your business, but then also about where you're going and what your family needs are and what other circumstances might have an impact on your resources. So before you go all the way down the rabbit hole of the legal and the governance and all of the things that it takes to move a business on paper, it's best to start with making a checklist of the things that you need to make your business successful right now. So if you are doing a business right now, whether it's a baby business you're just starting or a business you've been working on for years, what are the things that you need in order to make that business successful for you? Right. So once you have that list, then the next question is, for each item, is this something you can take with you, or is this something that you can't take with you? That helps you get your arms around what wheels you won't need to reinvent when you land in a new place. And of course, the follow-on question, though, is for the things you can't take with you, what would it take to replace them? What does that look like? Does it look like buying new things or finding new partners, or what things are going to need to happen in order for you to be able to keep being successful in a new place? And it's really just sort of thinking through what are those things, and then what impact do those things have on my resources? It might be money. You need to purchase new inventory, or you need to, find new vendors that you can use in a new place, or it might be something else entirely. Maybe it's brain power that you're using where you are, and now you're going to need that same kind of brain power, but licensed in a new state. So just thinking through those key things, what can you take with you and what needs replacing, and how might you go about replacing it, help you answer the really big question here, which is a move feasible? Because if you go through this process of thinking through what would it take logistically, and there's something on that I can't take it with me list that's a deal breaker, it's really important to know that up front. Usually when you're coming up with what you can take with you and what you can't, you can sort of brainstorm workarounds. We're all very sort of creative people and we have great networks. But if there's some brick wall in front of you, it's really good to identify it early so that you can decide, okay, if I'm not doing this, is it a different business and what might that look like? Or am I going to do something else entirely? So what would it take logistically is your first big question. If you go through the process of figuring out what it would take logistically to move your business and you figure out, okay, this is possible, I can do this, then how do I get registered? And it really comes down to sort of two different questions here. One of them is, can I move my LLC? About half of US jurisdictions will let you transfer your existing LLC to a new state, and about half won't. And in the half that won't let you transfer an LLC, you have to start a new LLC in the state that you're headed to. So doing a little bit of homework about figuring out what's that process. Is it a transfer process, or is it a situation where I need to wind down the LLC I have where I am and start a new one in my new state? And, what paperwork is involved? Most states have a very good Secretary of State website now with a business section that can walk you through. Their FAQs usually will say what you can do to transfer, or if transfer is not an option, how to set up a new LLC. Usually the forms can be filed online even, but doing a little bit of homework about if, can I take it with me, or do I need to start a new LLC where I'm going, is the first step. And then once you go through the process of filing a new LLC or transferring, whichever one is appropriate to where you're headed, calendaring follow-ups is really important. You'll see this over and over again, but the biggest sort of pain point for new businesses or businesses that have moved to new jurisdictions is having deadlines that creep up on you. So the more you can just calendar and forget until the reminders tell you that you need to pay attention to it again, the better. Now, one other question to think about as part of this overall sort of registration calculus is, should I move my LLC? Now, there are certainly reasons to keep an LLC where you are. Where you have your business now is a state that you plan on, terminal PCSing back to, or if you know that your move is a really short-term move and then you're headed back to the state where you are, you might consider keeping that LLC and then registering in the new state as a foreign LLC. And whether that's right for you or not is definitely something you should consult one-on-one with an attorney. But if you decide, hey, yes, I think I want to register as a foreign LLC, then it's the same kinds of questions, right? What's the process for filing the paperwork? How do I go about it? Those answers are also going to be on the Secretary of State's website for the state that you're looking at. And the same advice about calendaring follow-ups applies. So how do I get registered is really the first big question, because you can't conduct business in a new place until you're registered there, either as a transferred LLC, a new LLC in a new state, or a foreign LLC. And there are a couple of other considerations related to the foreign LLC piece we'll talk about a little bit later. But for now, that's a sort of brief overview about the registration question. Next question, also really important in terms of minding your P's and Q's, is who do I need to pay and how do I go about paying them? So if you have businesses now, in the states that you operate, states charge businesses taxes. Some franchise taxes, some sales taxes, some both, and some there are other kinds of taxes that are charged of specific kinds of businesses. And so another part of the research that you need to do about a jurisdiction that you're headed to is what kinds of taxes are charged by businesses, by the state, and how do I go about registering to make sure that I'm paying my taxes correctly. In most states, it's a state franchise tax board that will be the entity that you would need to register with. But if you're not sure, usually a state controller's website will provide that information about how to get registered and make sure that you're able to pay your taxes in a timely fashion. Once you figure out the taxes that need to be paid by businesses in a new state, making sure that you get registered is a really important thing. And then just like with your other kinds of registration, calendaring the applicable dates with reminders is really important. And this one is particularly important in states that have multiple kinds of taxes because, for example, I sit in Texas, the calendar for paying franchise taxes and what you have to file to pay franchise taxes is a completely separate calendar than sales taxes and what you have to file for sales taxes. So doing a little bit of homework to make sure, okay, for my business, these are the kinds of taxes I need to pay. Here's how I need to go about paying them. And here's the calendar on which I need to make sure I'm paying attention to this so that I can get things filed and paid timely. Those are all really important things to think about sort of in the setup process, and then calendar so that every year that you're in that jurisdiction, you're paying in a timely fashion. And this one, certainly when in doubt, you should speak to an attorney as well. Don't hear me downplaying that, but when in any doubt whatsoever about your business taxes, outsource it, because a CPA, to make sure that you know that you're doing the right things in the state where you are, is money well spent. And the other thing to think about when you're going to a new place is even getting advice from the CPA about the question about whether to be a foreign LLC or not is really helpful, because they can help you sort of calculate the costs associated with one option versus another. Attorney can help you think through the legal, but it's really a tax accountant that can help you think through the costs associated with your choices. So if you are outsourcing any of the work associated with moving your business to any kinds of professionals, a tax accountant should be at the top of your list. Okay.
Throw in one quick thing for you there.
Go ahead.
Most of the accountants are really happy when you find someone in the next state too, so they have someone to talk to because their state's different than the one that you're moving to. And so please introduce your accountants. They will be eternally grateful because they're not usually well-versed in both states.
Thank you, Lauren's anticipating my fourth question about bridging resources. So it's good. See, we're on the same wavelength here. That's a really good thing in a tag team exercise. Okay. So the next question that we have to consider is, do I need licenses? And when you're running a business, there are a couple of different kinds of licenses. The first is business licenses. This would be things like operational licenses. If you are in food and beverage, most states have alcohol licenses that are required. There are permits required to run specific kinds of businesses. And so when you're thinking about business licenses, it's important to ask, what licenses am I required to have now? And then look at the state that you're headed to and say, okay, is their licensing scheme the same or similar, or what terminology should I be considering? Once you've done a little bit of homework on the vocabulary, the first question is, can I transfer my business license? There are some kinds of business licenses that are transferable from state to state and others that aren't. So figuring out whether the licenses that you need are transferable or not is a really important first question. Then the next question is, what's the process for transfer if they're transferable, or what's the process for getting new ones if they're not? And the business licenses topic can be a little bit tricky because not every state uses the same vocabulary to talk about different kinds of licenses for hospitality and operations. And in the healthcare space, they're not exactly analogous. So it does require a little bit of homework. But if you require licenses now where you are, odds are you also require licenses where you're headed. So it's important to do the homework to figure out, okay, what is my new state going to call these things I need, and how do I go about getting them? And then once you've figured that out and gotten the ball rolling on your paperwork, the next thing is broken record here, but calendar for follow-ups, because licenses typically, but even business licenses require a new renewals on a regular interval, and licensing those, calendaring those ahead of time is going to save you a huge headache with respect to your licenses. So apart from business licenses, though, particularly in the military spouse space, a lot of challenges arise around professional licenses. If you're an accountant, if you're any kind of healthcare professional, if you're an attorney or even a teacher, people who work in a lot of different beauty services, there are a lot of professions that require licensing. And so in addition to any businesses licenses you might need, this is an important question to tackle. And same sort of thought process here. The first question is, am I moving to a state with reciprocity? And once you figure out the yes or no there, and you can find the answer to that usually through military resources like the Interstate Compact page. A lot of the national organizations keep running lists of which states have reciprocity on what kinds of licenses. Once you get your arms around, okay, I'm headed to, Ohio and they have reciprocity or don't, then the next question is, what's the process for waiver, if that's possible for you? Or what's the process for obtaining a new license? Different states have different licensing bodies that you have to go to for particular kinds of licenses. So doing a little bit of homework to figure out whether you're driving in the right lane or not is really important. For some jurisdictions, when you have to seek a new license, there are tests involved. So getting some homework done on what might be required in that space is really important. And then again, sort of calendaring for follow-ups. That's really important. The more you can document, in the playbook that you're building, but also on your calendar, the more you don't have to dedicate brain space to the things that are required to keep the engine running of your business. Professional licenses are really challenging. I know for many of you, I'm preaching to the choir. It's just a patchwork. And the truth is that business licenses are also a patchwork, but you usually don't have to take a bar exam, for example, to get a new business license in a new place. So professional licensing is one of the things where it's not only that you have to figure out feasibility, but if you think back to that first checklist we were making about what can I take with me and what can't I, it also requires advanced planning. If you do need to take an examination, if that's going to cost you something in terms of money, but also in terms of time, you need to be able to figure all that out. That way it helps you answer the question, is moving my business feasible for this particular move? Okay, so
we do have a question in the comments from Sarah Martin. She asks, is there a situation where you would have to move a fully online business? Or just maintaining the original state? So I think it's a great question for digital nomads.
There's not a straight line answer, Sarah. The truth is it really depends. For example, I'm a practicing attorney. The law doesn't care that my client doesn't care where I sit. Whether or not I can represent a client in another state is dependent on that state's laws about whether an attorney has to co-counsel with someone locally, or whether they can sit in another state and still represent people from another state. So that's something that you also need to do homework on is, the degree to which a jurisdiction is tolerant of remote work. I think generally speaking, if you're OCONUS, most states have a path to doing digital work as long as your licenses are appropriate to the clientele that you're serving. It gets a little bit, I said OCONUS, but if you're here, usually there's a path to maintaining a digital business. If you're OCONUS, you really have to consult an attorney and look at the laws to make sure that you can offer that business across jurisdictional lines. The way that our treaties read, and they're not uniform as between various partners, it's important to make sure you know what the law is that might be governing the work that you're doing.
Yeah. If I may, I'm going to drop a resource in for OCONUS. It's with the IVMF's playbook, right? That's been very helpful for me recently as I have an employee that's moving overseas. So thank you, IVMF. That's in the chat for anyone who needs it.
Great. Good. Okay. So the next question, and you heard Lauren preview this for you a little bit, is do I need bridge resources? And when I say bridge resources, I mean the resources that you might need to help get your business moved from one place to another. Depending on when and how you move, you may have homework where you are and homework where you're leaving that you need to keep a handle on. If you're moving in the middle of the year, you probably need help doing your taxes in both jurisdictions because you will have done business in two places. If you need to transfer licenses or start new licenses or wind down a business where you are, there are lots of reasons why you need good help where you're sitting now and good help where you're headed. So, you have heard me say a couple of times now, I'm big about making lists, but when you're thinking about what will it take to move my business, think about, okay, who's helping me with my business now that I might need to continue getting help from to wind things down or get things transferred. And then who is going to help me when I land in my new place. And then to Lauren's point, it's always good to get those professionals, mentors, advisors, whomever it is, talking to each other, because a very good mentor or professional understands what they do where they are, but not necessarily in other places. And so getting people connected that are trying to help you get your business moved is really important and helpful and will streamline the whole process. Like I said, if you have homework in both places, you need resources in both places. And I think you probably have the things you need where you are, but it's worth thinking about, okay, my CPA that I love where I sit right now, are they licensed in the state that I'm headed to? If not, that means I need to be looking for someone new. Maybe they can help me through their network, or maybe I can find someone through my network. But once I find that person, getting those two professionals connected is really important because they're going to be able to provide you the best advice together. It's always good to be looking for the people that you're going to need to help you before you move, so that you have the time to interview a few people, decide who you feel comfortable with, and then get them connected to the people who are already helping you to see through the transition, particularly if it's professionals. If you have the time, and I appreciate when it comes to PCS, you don't always have the time, but I always think it's good to interview a few different professionals, a few different CPAs, a few different attorneys, because 3 attorneys of the same caliber may do the same job for you, but you'll get a feeling about which one you think you will be able to work with the best. And you should trust your instinct on that. Same when it comes to accountants or auditors or any other kind of professional that you might work with, or even mentors. It's good to give yourself the time to talk to a few people and find out, what's going to serve you best. And then, same deal. I put calendar follow-ups here. It might even be more appropriate to say, meet with your bridging resources on a regular interval. Make sure everyone's on the same page about the process by which you're getting things moved, so that you can put those folks that are helping you move anyway to work, helping you work through your checklist. The last question, again, this is not super legally, but I think it's really important, is, where are my starter networks? We have this amazing sort of national network in the military community, veterans and military spouses, and the organizations that serve us kind of transcend boundaries. But here's the truth. When you land in a new place, you need to figure out how to plug in quickly. And when I am talking about a starter network, what I mean is, who are those first 5 or 6 phone calls that you really need to make, either when you land in a place or before you head to a place, to feel like you know your way around your new community when you get there. So, and you need sort of 2 different categories of resources in that starter network. And the first is for business resources. And one question to ask is, for the national organizations that I work with, do they have a presence where I'm headed? If they do, they can probably get you connected to their local colleagues where you are. And that's great, because that's somebody that you already know before you move to a new place. For those of you who work with the Small Business Administration through their SCORE mentors or through their small business development centers, there are SBDCs and SCORE mentors in a lot of communities. And if you're working with those resources where you are, ask them to help you get connected to the people where you're headed. And they're always very, very glad to do that. Plenty of other national organizations can too. If you are involved with Bunker Labs, for example, they can get you connected from one chapter to another. So just thinking about, what are the organizations I'm already a part of, and how might they be able to make it easier for me to get connected where I'm headed? Once you've sort of figured out who are those national organizations that can help me get connected, the next question really is, what are the local resources I should check out? So if you're part of professional associations or chambers of commerce where you are, or other kinds of local organizations, odds are there are similar organizations where you're headed. They might not be called the same thing and they might not be exactly the same, but they still exist for the purpose of helping you be successful in your business. And they are always very excited to welcome new businesses to new communities. So figuring out what are those couple of resources that I think look like they could be really helpful to me where I'm headed, and reaching out to those local organizations when you're headed to a new place is a really, really good way to get connected. And the best thing to do, whether it's getting connected with a local office of a national organization or a new local organization that you think might be helpful, is just ask them how you can get involved. Because they won't just give you resources, they'll point you to the events that they think will be most helpful to you in getting to know your new community. And that's not only good for your business, but it's also good for building new relationships where you are. And I have always found this to be a tremendous way to meet not only people that have been helpful in my business, but also some, really close friends in new communities that can help you navigate even questions like, what school should I think about for my kids, or what neighborhoods should I think about? I mean, these are really great local resources who've had the benefit of being in one place for a while, and they can help show you the ropes in a new community. So apart from these sort of business resources, of course, we always know that there are military spouse resources as well. So same kind of process going through in your mind, what are those military spouse groups that might exist where I'm going? And can I get connected to them now to say, hey, I'm headed there. Who can help me? Who would like to meet? I'd love to, get to know the community. Who has ideas about the kinds of events I should attend? And then, same question, how can I get involved? Because the quicker you can figure out how to plug into a new place, the quicker you'll feel like you can navigate it. And we all know how very important confidence is in business. Feeling like you have at least a little bit of a handle on a new place when you land there to start growing your business again is very empowering. And I hope what you've heard from me, like all through all of these different slides, is questions to ask to empower yourself, figuring out, can I move my business? What might that look like? How do I get it registered? How do I make sure I'm paying my taxes? How do I make sure I have tapped the resources that I need? How do I make sure I've thought about the network that I need? These are all really important questions to ask yourself to get your business positioned, but also just to put you in the mindset to grow your business again in a new place. You've already done it once already, and it can feel daunting to have to start all over again. But here's the truth. You don't have to totally start all over again if you've done a little bit of this homework. So the last sort of the overview, if you take nothing else away from the session with me today, be prepared. You've heard me say things about your homework about 80 million times in the last 15 minutes, but it is very important. Ask questions. People love to help curious people. So whether it's the professionals helping you, or the organizations you're contacting, or the network that you have, if you just ask for help, people are always willing, particularly people who are really invested in helping small businesses grow. And most importantly, do not do it alone. Entrepreneurship is lonely enough already. Don't feel like you have to figure out how to move your business all on your own or grow your business all on your own. Reach out and to individuals and organizations. People want to help you. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Lauren. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so she can share hers and tell you a little bit about her own entrepreneurship journey.
Well, thank you very much, Rita. She's absolutely right in the not doing it alone. I think that's the only way that I've survived doing all that I have. So that you're all tracking, I have 3 different businesses currently. I'm a military spouse of 17 years. We're still active duty. And I have moved my businesses 7 times across my 11 military moves. So getting there. This is me. I'm Lauren Hope, the executive director of the Second Service Foundation. I've recently stepped into nonprofit work and absolutely loving it. I have the joy of working with IAVMF through their CMPP program. This looks really put together and polished. However, I have a cat who's meowing over here now. Sorry, working from home. But also, I'm an active duty spouse and I'm a mom. I I live this life is what I'm saying. So giving you a little bit of my background and how I got from the life before the military to here real quick, I'm going to go through some pictures real fast for you. I used to be a professional chef. I was a really good one. I went to the Culinary Institute of America, used to compete in competitions all the time, did really well for myself. Loved my job. Met this guy and we did the thing, right? It happens. Middle of war, he deploys, he goes and does his thing. And so continuing my cooking journey while moving with the military, I went and did something crazy and applied for Top Chef. Didn't work out as well as I wanted to, but I found quickly that the military was not going to be the lifestyle for my culinary business, because trying to plan all my caterings and cakes and things like that didn't work with the random moves of the military. So went through a couple transitions in life and really rediscovered who I was. What I'm saying to you guys right now is it's okay to pivot. If your business doesn't fit the life that you're handed at that time, adapt. You're going to become a much stronger person through it, right? This picture here, I went through a couple of tough times of my life. My businesses reinvented themselves. That's a story for another time, but all my little blessings came along, kept doing the military thing, moving yet again. And I started this little jewelry business called Hope Design. It's moved with me over the last, gosh, it's gonna be 10 years old in July now. So we're getting there. Hope Design is really connected me through the military community. It's been an absolute pleasure. It started as this little hobby at my kitchen table, and it's now grown into this brand where I employ other military spouses, and we travel the country doing jewelry shows and all sorts of good things. So the jewelry business went well. Lots of people wore my jewelry. One thing led to another. By the way, still moving. And I created this social media movement called Shop Military because I very passionately believe that military are built to be entrepreneurs. We already have the grit. We have the tenacity. We know how to pivot as we move, right? So with Shop Military, I found myself at IVMF's VWise for the first time at AUSA. So had a lovely time there. And I found myself in the room with some really important people. As I shared my ideas on Shop Military, they're like, you should keep sharing this. This is really good. So now I get paid to speak professionally and open my mouth in public. So you're all welcome for that. I'm sorry. But with that, we're still doing the Army thing, still deploying, still raising kids, living the dream, stressed, but loving it. And I thought we were getting really close to retirement, like really close. Like I'm in the retirement house right now. We've been in for 17 years. We had an assignment to coast to 20. I even bought propane gas tanks for my grill last week. And then I found out that we're moving again. So I'm now getting ready to move my 2 for-profit and my 1 nonprofit business yet again across state lines in the name of the Army. Woo! So that brings us closer to date. Before I found out we were moving, I decided I'd start yet another business because we were really going to stay here. We were going to live in Colorado forever. So I became a real estate agent and I got to help more people move their businesses. Through real estate, I went to the Military Influencer Conference and I met a guy named Mark Rockefeller. He happens to be the founder of the Second Service Foundation. And through conversation with him, I'm now literally living my dream job. All of that to say, I've picked up a lot of skills on this roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship and had no idea at the time that it was going to build into this beautiful journey that it has. It's not always easy moving your business, but if you believe that there is that light at the end of the tunnel and good that can come from the hard times, you will absolutely have the grit to pull through this. So if anyone's curious, my business looks like that. That's how many times we've moved. It's been great. I'm going to say, what questions do you have? How can we help?
I do. This is Susan Allen. Hi,
Susan.
I'm from Washington, D.C. with the U.S. Pan Asian American Chamber of Commerce. I don't know whether you see my face. Let me show the video. Can you see me? No, you can't.
We see your name.
Anyway, I'm fascinated with your story. I am with the Pan Asian American Chamber of Commerce, and we're 38 years old, and in Washington, D.C., with chapters in California, Texas, Georgia, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. is our national headquarters. And I work with the veterans, 2 veteran groups, which are small business groups. And I've always thought about veterans, their spouses. They move around exactly the way you described. Every time the husband goes, you pick up, you're the best packer. You know how to pack, right? And love to have you come and speak to some of our Asian Americans who do not have to be in the military, but they can adopt your model. You can start a nonprofit, not a small business. So love to, don't know where you're located. We'd love to have you come and either do a webinar with us and talk to our constituents, or even to come and talk to at a national conference in Las Vegas in June.
I would be delighted to connect. We'll put our information in the chat for you guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Maxwell, you know that, right? Max, thank you for inviting me to this. And I got exposure to her story. We can talk later about this, and it's wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. So Susan's very humble. She's the CEO of the Pan Asian Chamber of Commerce. And she, like the IVMF, is a tier 1 hub in the CNPP. And I just wanted to interject really briefly to make that intro, but also just to add, before we go into more Q&A, a little bit of a plug. So for context, I mean, we heard Amanda's intro about how the CNPP is comprised of 15 partner organizations. Rita is with the MSGDN, the Military Spouse GD Network. They're a partner in this grant, as is the Second Service Foundation that Lauren leads. And I wanted to do one more plug. One of the other of those 15 partners is a CPA firm. We have an accounting firm who is a member of this. So Rita mentioned earlier the importance of having an accountant on your team with an attorney. So I just wanted to do a quick plug to say, if you would like to connect with Rita, you have that opportunity to do so through the office hours, which we've shared a link for, but you also have the ability to connect with a CPA firm. They work all over the US. I'm not sure they're licensed in every state, but they're happy to help folks in every state. So you can reach them by that link that we've provided in the chat earlier. I'm also going to drop a flyer in the chat to include some more, just an overview of all the services we offer through this grant. And then, or you could just email us. However you want, we can help you get in touch with any one of the ladies who spoke today, or with the accounting firm.
Thank you, Max. Rita, I do have a question for you.
Ready.
Say somebody has to move in like 6 weeks to 3 months, and they really don't know when they're moving. What are the first moves that you would make for your business? And what are the things that you would just worry about on the other side, like picking the pieces up off the floor, because you're going to get there either way, right?
So I think sort of starting with the logistical questions is the very best place to start, because all Lauren really is talking about is what runway you have to actually move your business. The questions are the same. It's thinking about what makes me successful now that I need to either be able to take with me or replicate where I'm headed. What might I need to find where I'm headed? And how do I get registered where I'm headed so that when I hit the ground, I can hit the ground running? And if you have that longer runway to do a little bit of research, that's really good, because it gives you the ability to lay some groundwork about any resources that need replacing, reach out to some folks in your new network to ask some questions about sort of how to get connected before you get there. But the questions are the same, whether you have 6 days or 6 months to prepare. The only thing that I know is really hard when you aren't really sure when you're leaving is figuring out when to start doing things like marketing or sales outreach or planning events. That kind of thing I know can be really hard, but all of those things are made easier by having laid the groundwork. So if you're stuck in a holding pattern anyway, that's a really great way to spend that time, is sort of focused on the essentials of making sure that your framework is set.
Okay, absolutely. In one of my recent experiences moving a business, like I'm finding out the ask for forgiveness, because I don't always have my ideal situation. And so that helps quite a bit. I found a lot of the government agencies are willing to work with me too. Whenever I say, we tried, we're here now, I'm trying to pick up pieces, and they'll help lean in, and even waiving fees and that kind of thing. I had friendly people at the IRS, if you can believe it. So
the thing about the Secretary of State's team that deals with businesses, or your local franchise tax board, or your state controller, they exist to bring more economic activity into a state. So they want to help you be successful. And when I number two thing, right, that you should remember from my session is ask questions. Pick up the phone and call. If you're trying to figure out the answers to the registration question, for example, or the taxation question, and you just cannot understand the website, just call the office. It might take a little bit of time for someone to get back to you, because most of those staffs are small and overworked, but they are always very happy to answer questions. They can give you advice about how to start things the right way. They can also give you advice about how to fix your oopses. And there are going to be oopses. That's fine. It's not something that you should be embarrassed about or worried about, but it is one of those things where you should pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I think I did this wrong. Can you please help me fix it? And generally speaking, you'll find people very willing to help you either get things right the first time or fix them if they weren't quite right the first time.
Beautiful. By the way, if anyone else has questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Otherwise, I'm just going to use this as a let me ask Rita all the questions I have personally, because I've got a lot of things to work on now. So
I'm ready either way.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes,
So when it comes to possibly moving your business internationally, what nuances or differences would there be to this format you laid out?
Yeah, great question. No differences in terms of the questions that you need to ask yourself, but that makes making sure you connect with the right professionals even more important. If you're moving to a foreign jurisdiction, making sure you talk to an attorney in that jurisdiction and an accountant in that jurisdiction, so that they can tell you what it would take to move your business. Those are the really sort of most important first questions, so that you can figure out the feasibility question. And the network is usually this network, IVMF's network, all of the partner networks are usually a good place to find those professionals. But especially when you're moving out of the country, treat them like they're your best friends. Ask them all the questions, and let them tell you, hey, is this something you can do? And what would it look like to be successful doing it?
Can I follow up on that? We're facing a move to Japan. As a bookkeeper, I don't have any intention of actually operating or serving clients within Japan. I have no way of being trained for that. So where I sit is going to change, but how I run my business and who I work with isn't going to change at all. Do you have any different advice for that situation?
A little bit. So if you are serving clients here, then you have all the licensing that you need. And if you don't plan on moving your LLC, that's probably fine also. But, I used LLC as my frame of reference because that's what most of you likely have, either an LLC or a partnership. They're treated similarly for tax purposes. We can talk about corporations and office hours if any of you have those questions, but LLC is a pass-through. And so how you do business has an impact on your personal taxes too. So particularly if you're moving OCONUS, it's important to talk to a tax advisor that has expertise helping people who've made international moves to make sure that your business has paid the right taxes, certainly, but also to make sure that your personal taxes don't take a hit by operating outside of the country. And I think it's worth talking to an accountant, even on the front end of, are there any things I need to do to move my business? Or are there any things I need to change about the structure of my business to make operating outside the country easier on my personal taxes? Are the important questions to ask.
We do have another question. Mr. DePrimo.
Yes, how are you? So I have two questions, one for each of you. So Rita, I'm going to start off with you. If I wanted to expand my company and I was already operating my LLC in one state, such as New York, and I wanted to operate in additional states while still maintaining my LLC in New York, I wouldn't have to register that, or I would have to register that with additional states as a foreign LLC while still maintaining my LLC in the original state?
Great question. So if you plan on being in multiple states, You have your home LLC. The two things you need in any other jurisdictions you want to operate in from a legal perspective are registering as a foreign LLC. And then most states require you to have a registered agent who oversees that foreign LLC in that new state. And there are businesses, their whole business model is being registered agent for businesses that are located in other places. That's typically the easiest way to handle having a registered agent in a place where you're registered as a foreign LLC, but you would need that in each of the additional jurisdictions that you plan on operating in. And then same deal, figure out who are those taxing authorities, because, you know, foreign LLCs are taxed in their state of operation also. So getting your foreign LLC registered, getting a registered agent, and then making sure you've filed the appropriate paperwork to be taxed in each of the jurisdictions where you want to operate is how you get going.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. And Lauren, my second question for you. You said you went to a conference where you met Mr. Rockefeller. I just wanted to find what was the name of that conference, because I would love to learn of more opportunities for networking.
Absolutely. Actually, I've seen Rita there before. So we go to the Military Influencer Conference. It's held every fall, usually late September, October, or November. This year, it happens to be right around Veterans Day. I believe it's like November, maybe 8th to the 11th. Don't quote me on the exact dates, but right around there. It's a phenomenal conference because it brings in people from all corners of the military space. And so it's a great way to expand your audience and get to meet new people. Absolutely love that one. And let's see here. Doing the registered agent that she was just talking about. For our nonprofit foundation, we happen to use a group that is a veteran-run business called Clearly Compliant. They keep my foundation compliant in all 50 states because we have to be registered, because I collect donations from all 50 states. So I just shout out, they do a wonderful job for a registered agent. All right. Let's see here. Marianne, I have you next in the chute.
I just wanted to add very briefly, for anyone headed overseas, if you're associated with the military, find a CPA or a professional who understands what your SOFA agreement is for the country you are headed to. A random CPA has no idea what the SOFA agreement means. Somebody who has been stationed in Japan is not going to be able to give you the same answers as somebody who has been stationed in Italy. Their SOFA agreements vary widely. So just one more piece of information to keep in mind is that you need to know what the agreements are for where you're headed, and find a professional who understands what those agreements are.
Thank you, Marianne. That's exactly right. Also, hi. I'm so excited to see
Hi.
other members of MSJDN on this call today.
All right. Let's see here. Hannah, do you have our question?
Lauren, how are you?
So good to see you.
Good to see you too. I have a question for Rita, and it kind of bounces off Matt's question that he just asked. So I'm kind of similar to his business. I operate in multiple states. I'm actually a healthcare practice. I do online teletherapy. I have recently started working with a new group of attorneys, and they have recommended me restructuring my practice so that, because what I'm running into is I'm having issues using the same tax ID number in like multiple states. And so they're wanting to have like a parent company and then have subsidiaries in each state that I like am going to practice in. So do you have any anything? I know you had some recommendations to Matt, but anything specifically to this situation that you might advise?
Well, the first thing that I heard you say that I'm pleased about is that you're already talking to a lawyer about this.
Yes.
That's great. That's a great place to start. Probably what they are advising you is, in order to be able to sort of streamline operation across multiple states, to have a parent company makes that easier. The questions I would ask of them are around the upkeep. They'll want to advise you about where that parent corporation sits. You'll want to ask them questions about whether that has any impact on your healthcare licensing from state to state? I would guess not, but I think, let me back up and be artful here. A reason to have a parent company is in order to standardize activities of subsidiaries across multiple jurisdictions so that the way that they all operate is the same, except where they need to be different from one place to the other, right? There are definitely benefits to that. There's also more administration and typically some more costs to that. So I think it's important when you're speaking to your attorneys to be sure and ask them what administrative differences, would I be responsible for overseeing here? What might that mean in terms of money or additional manpower? And are there any sort of specific requirements that's going to trigger for me amongst the subsidiary LLCs? And I doubt they would be particularly burdensome. You're already operating multiple places, but just sort of understanding what will be required of me so that I can calendar it and make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks and make sure that I'm doing things the right way. Those are just making sure that you understand the administrative piece of it. And then also what it'll mean in terms of resources and filing and those kinds of questions. But I think it's exciting to me if you have grown your business to the point where they're thinking that you need a more organized structure. What that means is that you're doing something right. And that's really exciting for you. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any further questions this afternoon? How long are we on here today? Do we have a couple more minutes or?
Yeah, we're on until 3 o'clock.
Ah, beautiful. Okay. Well, let's see here. So then I'm going to use this as Lauren's question hour then. Feel free
I'm
to
ready.
hop in as you all have them, truly. Rita, I know when people live on a military installation, you generally have to register your business. Any thoughts or guidance when going down that rabbit hole if they're moving on to a military installation?
It should definitely be on your what makes my business successful list of things to follow up on. So if you have a business on base where you are and you're interested in having a business on base where you're headed, that's something that you should do your homework about what's required on the installation I'm headed to. It's not uniform, even inside of a branch, it's not necessarily uniform, but particularly if you're, for example, Army headed to an Air Force base, understanding what are the vendor requirements to be able to do business on that particular installation. And what's the feasibility of getting that in the time frame that I'm going to be moving in should be on the list of questions that you're asking.
Beautiful. Thank you. Let's see here. I'm curious. There are standard things you look for every time you move, right? Like, you need to pay sales tax, you need to register with the state, that kind of thing. Are there any funny laws or quirky experiences you've had with registering in different states that might give us an idea of what to be on the lookout for outside of the norm?
I don't know about quirky, but it's really important to know, how does this state I'm headed to tax businesses? Because it's not uniform. Some of them rely heavily on sales tax. Some of them it's more franchise tax. And because we are, 50 unique jurisdictions, the vocabulary isn't uniform from place to place. So what's really important is understanding, where am I headed? How does this new place talk about how a business operates from a registration perspective and from a taxation perspective? And you can figure those things out by spending a little bit of time on the Secretary of State website, spending a little bit of time on the state controller website. They try really hard to make their FAQs really user-friendly, but just that's worth 30 minutes of your time to acclimate to the new vocabulary of the place you're headed. And that's the thing that is sometimes the trickiest, just shifting that mindset of, okay, I've been a, Tennessee business for 3 years. Now I'm about to be a Colorado business. What's that going to mean for how I operate, how I keep my book, how I, keep myself organized, and what terms I'm using for the questions I need to ask the people I want to help me.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So I just used one of my many military superhero skills and realized I had done time zone math differently. So Amanda, when you say 3 o'clock, you mean 3 o'clock Eastern, right? So we're good.
Yes, I should have specified that, but
That's all right.
So we are at time, but I wanted to thank Rita and Lauren both so much for joining us and sharing all that amazing information. Please double check the chat because I know we dropped quite a few different links and resources for everyone to utilize. And be on the lookout for our next upcoming webinar. It will be next month. We'll have a flyer out shortly, and it'll be about disaster preparedness for your business. And thank you everybody again for joining us. And I hope you all have a great afternoon.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.